This program is brought to you by Ace Hardware. Ace Hardware, your helpful hardware store.
The 30-year battle over the village at Wolf Creek is flaring up again. Rio Grande National Forest Supervisor Dan Dallas released a draft decision on July 19th to grant a road easement from U.S. Highway 160 to a 288-acre parcel of private land at the top of Wolf Creek Pass. Two businessmen, Charles Level and Texas billionaire Red McCombs, have lost several lawsuits in attempts to obtain access for their village at Wolf Creek, which, as currently proposed, could house a community of 8,000 to 10,000 people. Dallas based his latest decision to grant road access on the Alaskan National Interest Lands Conservation Act, a 1980 law that requires the federal government to provide adequate access for reasonable use and enjoyment of private land that's surrounded by federal land. It's the reasonable use clause that is at the heart of the controversy. Dallas wrote in his decision that an all-season resort with residential and commercial development is a reasonable use of the private inholding. But conservation groups have fought the controversial proposal for years, saying it's an inappropriate use of an environmentally sensitive area that serves as a major wildlife corridor, habitat for the endangered lynx, and feeds the headwaters of the Rio Grande. The road easement granted in this latest decision was one of several alternatives included in a 2014 environmental impact statement that analyzed the proposal to exchange Forest Service land for some of the private land to give the developers access to the highway. Dallas approved the land exchange, but it was later set aside by a federal district court order in 2017 when Judge Richard Match ruled that the Forest Service failed to consider the impacts that the actual development would have on the environment as required by the National Environmental Protection Act. But Dallas has argued that he cannot legally block access to private property and that any development decisions belong to elected officials in Mineral County where the parcel is located. Conservation groups have called this latest decision to approve road access to the village at Wolf Creek an artful dodge of the 2017 court ruling and a violation of federal law because Dallas based his decision on the same environmental impact that the district court said was arbitrary and capricious, an abuse of discretion, and contrary to law. The village at Wolf Creek has filed an appeal, and Dallas says that the courts merely set aside the appeal for the land exchange, not the environmental impact statement, and therefore he still has the power to approve road access to the village.
We think that means it's set aside, which means none of the alternatives are available for use. And so what they're attempting to do is to circumvent the legal finding, which, I mean, obviously we will fight all the way and we're very confident we'll win that. But we're feeling that, as in any NEPA process, any kind of alternative that's looked at, that's being considered, needs to be fully analyzed. And this was not.
Conservation organizations expected the Forest Service to continue its attempts to grant access to developers whom they suspect have inappropriately used their political influence with the Trump administration. Dallas denies the charges. The organizations, including the San Juan Citizens Alliance, Rocky Mountain Wild, Wilderness Workshop, and the San Luis Valley Ecosystem Council, filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the Forest Service on July 20th, seeking release of all documents pertaining to the latest decision.
When an alternative from an EIS is pushed forward that a judge has clearly turned aside as illegal, and they think they can go forward with that, well, either it's a Hail Mary pass, or there's some kind of political influence really pushing it forward on this one.
Conservation groups are further outraged that Dallas is limiting public comment to only those who commented on the original land exchange, EIS. No new comments will be accepted.
Just to cut off public comment is, you can tell I'm speechless. It's just absurd. It's undemocratic. It's a bad idea. Because it's so often from those comments, as I've pointed out before many times, is that you get comments from the public and experts that shed light on a better way to do things, or a middle ground, a solution. And this is, they're really not looking for a solution here because they're coming forward with something that's illegal. It's not a solution. It'll be thrown out again. And basically, the joint venture with the backing of the Forest Service going hand in hand is wasting our time.
To read the latest decision, visit fs.usda.gov and search for Village at Wolf Creek.